Hey loves, what's up? Hope you will be fine and enjoying good health. So I want to start by telling you about a checkout line. A few weeks ago, I was at the grocery store. End of a long day, and the woman in front of me was having a moment with the cashier. Her card kept declining. She tried it 3 times. The line behind us was growing, people were sighing, and the cashier, young, clearly overwhelmed, said something a little sharp to her. Snippy, unkind, the kind of comment that, in that moment, the woman had every right to fire back at. She could have matched the tone. She could have put that cashier in her place. She had the high ground and an audience and a totally justified reason to let her have it. And instead, she just went quiet for a second. And then she said, softly, "It's okay, sweetheart. I can tell you're having a rough one too. Let me just grab the few things I really need." And I watched the cashier's entire face change. I mean, it changed. The defensiveness melted right off of her. Her shoulders dropped. By the time that woman left, the cashier was practically tripping over herself to be kind to her, bagging her things carefully, telling her to have a good night like she actually meant it. The woman could have won that exchange by being sharp. Instead, she won it by being gracious, and the second one is a completely different kind of winning. The kind that actually changes how someone sees you, permanently, in about 4 seconds flat. I think about that woman a lot. And when I sat down with the cards for this reading, her face came right back to me. Because that exact thing is what tonight is about. It's Elena. Welcome back to Elena Tarot. And this one is special to me because it's about something I think is genuinely one of the most powerful and most underrated forces in all of human connection. The moment you could have humbled someone, knocked them down, proven your point, won the exchange, and you chose not to. You chose something better. And that choice didn't make you look weak. It did the opposite. It rearranged how that person sees you instantly and permanently in a way that winning the argument never could have. So if you've recently had a moment like that, a moment where you had every right to go low, and you went high instead, and you've been quietly wondering whether it even registered, whether they noticed, whether it mattered, pull up close. Because it registered. Oh, it registered. Let me show you exactly what it did. Let me shuffle. We're going into their head, into the precise moment your grace landed on them, and what it changed. First card down, and I love that this is where we begin, because it shows me the setup, the moment the door swung open for you to humble them, and the choice you made standing in front of it. The card is the Five of Wands, and the Five of Wands is conflict. It's the scuffle. It's the moment things could have turned into a fight. Here's the picture I'm getting. There was a situation recent, I think, where this person did something that put them in a vulnerable position with you. Maybe they messed up and you caught it. Maybe they said something careless and immediately realized it. Maybe they came to you needing something after a stretch of treating you carelessly, and you could see the awkwardness all over them. Whatever it was, the ball was in your court. You had the upper hand. You had the receipts, the moral high ground, the perfect opening to make them feel small, and honestly, a part of you probably wanted to. That's human. When someone's been less than great to you, and then they slip up, there's a very natural pull to seize that moment and let them have it. But here's what the Five of Wands is showing me about you specifically. You saw the fight, and you declined it. You looked at the open door marked "Humble Them," and you walked right past it. Not because you couldn't have walked through it, you absolutely could have, and you both know it, but because you decided that winning that particular battle wasn't worth what it would cost. You chose your peace over your point. You chose grace over the gotcha. Let me give you a concrete picture of what this looks like in real life, because I want you to recognize your own moment in it. It looks like the coworker who threw you under the bus in a meeting, and then a week later needed your help on something, and instead of saying, "Oh, now you need me," you just help them cleanly, without the dig. It looks like the friend who disappeared when you needed them, then resurfaced going through something hard, and instead of reminding them how absent they'd been, you just showed up for them. It looks like the partner or ex who said something cruel, then fumbled an apology, and instead of making them grovel for it, you simply accepted it and let it be. In every one of those moments, you had a loaded weapon in your hand, and you set it down. That's the Five of Wands declined. And declining a fight you could have won is a kind of strength most people never develop. Comment I set it down if you know exactly the moment I'm talking about, the one where you could have gone for the throat and chose mercy instead. Because that moment is the whole reason this reading found you. And I want to add something about why this is so much harder than it looks, because I don't want you to undersell what you did. There's a reason humbling someone is the default human move. It's because it feels good in the moment. There's a hit of righteous satisfaction in putting someone in their place when they deserve it. It scratches an itch. So when you declined that hit, when you passed up the immediate satisfaction of the gotcha, you were actually overriding a really deep, really primal impulse. That's not nothing. Think about how hard it is in an argument to not deliver the perfect comeback that's sitting right on the tip of your tongue. The pull to land it is almost physical. Most people can't resist it. You did. And you didn't resist it because you couldn't think of the comeback. You resisted it because you understood on some level that the satisfaction of landing it would be over in 5 seconds, while the cost of landing it could last much longer. That's not weakness. That's a kind of long game wisdom most people never develop. You played the long game in a moment that begged you to play the short one. Next card. Okay, second card. And now we cross over to their experience of that moment. Because what happened on their side is honestly kind of delicious. The card is the Eight of Swords, reversed, and here's what it reveals. This person walked into that interaction braced. They knew they were exposed. They knew they'd handed you the perfect opportunity. And in their head, they had already pre-written what was coming. They were fully expecting you to take the shot. They were braced for the dig, the lecture, the cold shoulder, the I told you so, the subtle little punishment. Because that's what they would have done. That's what most people do. When you catch someone with their guard down and you have every right to make them pay for it, the expected move is to make them pay for it. So they were standing there, defenses up, waiting for the blow. And the blow didn't come. Instead, they got grace. They got understanding. They got you choosing the high road when the low road was right there and fully justified. And the reversed Eight of Swords is the card of a trap that doesn't spring of someone braced for a binding that never tightens. They were ready to be humbled, ready to be made small, ready to defend themselves, and there was suddenly nothing to defend against. You disarmed them completely, not by overpowering them, but by refusing to do the thing they were sure you'd do. And I want you to understand what that does to a person's nervous system, because it's powerful. When someone is braced for an attack, and the attack doesn't come, when instead they receive kindness, it doesn't just relieve them. It destabilizes them, in the best way. It scrambles their entire read on the situation. They came in with a story about how this was going to go, and you tore the story up. Here's the practical version. Think about the last time you were ready for someone to be mad at you. You'd rehearsed your defense. Your stomach was in knots, and instead, they were gentle with you. Remember how disarming that was? How it almost brought your guard down faster than any amount of niceness on a normal day would have? That's because grace, in the exact moment you expected the opposite, hits about 10 times harder than grace, given when it's easy. You gave them that. And it landed like a thunderclap. Here's another angle on it that I find genuinely fascinating, because it's a little bit of human psychology that explains so much. There's a thing that happens when we expect one thing and get the opposite. It creates what you might call a productive crack. When someone braces for harshness and receives softness, their defenses, which were all aimed at the wrong target, suddenly have nothing to push against, and they collapse on their own. You know how when you go to lift something heavy and it turns out to be empty, you almost throw it over your shoulder because your body prepared for a weight that wasn't there? That's what you did to this person emotionally. They braced hard for a blow. The blow wasn't there. And all that bracing energy had nowhere to go, so it collapsed inward and left them wide open. That openness is exactly the state in which a person's opinion of someone can actually change. You can't change someone's mind while their guard is up and they're defending. You can only change it when the guard drops. And your grace dropped their guard in a way that no argument, no matter how correct, ever could have. That's the genius of what you did, even if you did it on pure instinct. Next card. Okay, third card. And this is the one the title promised the instant their opinion of you changed. The card is the Judgment card. And Judgment is the card of awakening, of sudden realization, of seeing something or someone clearly for the first time, as if a fog lifted and a truth you'd been missing snapped into focus. That's what happened inside this person. In the moment you chose grace over the gotcha, something in them woke up. They suddenly saw you differently. And I want to be specific about what shifted, because it's not vague, it's a very particular recalculation. Up until that moment, this person had you filed under a certain category. Maybe they thought you were a little naive. Maybe they thought you were someone they could be careless with. Maybe, and this is common, they actually thought less of you than you deserved. Mistook your kindness for something soft and unremarkable. Assumed you didn't have the spine to stand up for yourself. And then you showed them, in that one moment, that you absolutely did have the spine you could have struck and chose not to, and the realization rearranged everything. Because here's the thing they understood in that instant, the thing that flipped the switch. You weren't gracious because you were weak. You were gracious because you were strong enough not to need the win. And those are two completely different things, and people can tell the difference immediately. Weak nice is when someone is kind because they're afraid of conflict, because they don't have the option to do otherwise. Strong nice is when someone clearly could have leveled you and chose, from a position of total power, to be gentle instead. The second one is magnetic. The second one commands a respect that nothing else can buy. And in that moment, this person realized they'd been looking at the second kind the whole time and mistaking it for the first. Let me give you a real-world example of how dramatic this flip can be, because I find it fascinating. Think about the historical figures, the leaders, the people we revere most, and notice how often their most respected moments are moments of restraint. The leader who could have crushed a rival and chose reconciliation instead. The person who had every right to retaliate and chose forgiveness. We don't revere those moments because the person was weak. We revere them because the person was so powerful that mercy became the most impressive thing they could do. On a small personal scale, that's exactly what you did. And this person felt the same thing the whole world feels when it witnesses powerful restraint. A wave of involuntary, almost awestruck respect. Judgment, the awakening, the instant they saw the real you. And here's a smaller, more everyday example that I think makes it even clearer, because it happens all the time. Picture someone who's a little arrogant. Maybe they talk over people. Maybe they're used to being the smartest one in the room. Maybe they've gotten away with being a bit dismissive for years. And then one day they slip up in front of the very person they've been dismissive toward. And that person, instead of seizing the moment to say, "See, you're not so perfect after all," just quietly helps them recover with no commentary at all. Watch what happens to the arrogant person's face in that moment. It's a specific look, a flicker of confusion, then something softening. Then something that looks a lot like shame, mixed with respect. Because in that instant, they realize the person they'd been underestimating just demonstrated more class in 4 seconds than they'd shown in years. That's a permanent recalibration. From that moment on, they treat that person differently, more carefully, more respectfully, because you cannot go back to dismissing someone once they've shown you they're operating on a higher level than you are. That's what your grace did. It didn't just change a mood. It moved you up a tier in their mental hierarchy. And there's no moving back down. Comment the switch flipped if you can feel that this person's whole opinion of you reorganized itself in a single moment recently. because the cards are telling me it did. Next card. Okay, fourth card. And this shows me the new belief that locked into place once their opinion flipped the upgraded version of you that now lives in their mind. The card is the King of Cups. And oh, this is such a beautiful card to describe how they now see you. The King of Cups is the master of emotional self-control. He sits on a throne in the middle of a churning sea, completely calm, completely steady, in full command of his own feelings while everything around him roils. He's not unfeeling, quite the opposite. He feels deeply, but he is never ruled by his feelings. He has them, they don't have him. And that is exactly the quality this person now associates with you. After watching you choose grace in a moment that would have made most people lash out, they now see you as someone with mastery over yourself. Someone who doesn't get jerked around by every impulse. Someone with a deep, steady, unshakable center. And here's why that specific perception is such a game changer. Love's emotional self-control is one of the rarest and most respected qualities a human being can have, precisely because it's so hard to fake and so easy to lose. Anyone can be calm when things are easy. The King of Cups stays calm when provoked, when handed the perfect excuse to lose it. So when this person watched you have that excuse and not take it, they didn't just think, oh, that was nice of her. They thought, on some deeper level, that's someone I can't rattle. That's someone who operates from a place I can't reach with cheap shots. That's someone genuinely above the fray. And people do not mess with someone they perceive as being above the fray. They respect them. They're a little in awe of them. They start almost unconsciously to want that person's good opinion. Let me make it practical. Picture two people in the same frustrating situation, a delayed flight, a rude customer, a deal falling through. One of them explodes, makes a scene, lets everyone see exactly how rattled they are. The other one stays composed, handles it with quiet steadiness, treats everyone with grace, even though they're clearly frustrated too. Now ask yourself, which of those two people would you trust more? Which would you respect more? Which would you want on your side in a crisis? It's the second one, every time. Because composure under pressure reads as strength, capability, reliability. It makes people feel safe. That's the King of Cups. And that's who you became in this person's eyes the moment you kept your cool when you had every reason to lose it. You didn't just earn their respect, you earned their trust. And there's a layer to this that's worth pausing on, because it explains why this perception is so sticky, why it doesn't fade once it forms. People are constantly, often unconsciously, sorting everyone around them into two categories: people who are safe to be vulnerable around and people who aren't. And the single biggest thing that determines which category you land in is how you handle moments when someone is exposed in front of you. Do you exploit their weakness or do you protect it? Every person learns over a lifetime that most people will exploit it, will use your low moment against you, will store it up as ammunition, will make you regret being caught off guard. So when you encounter someone who had your weakness in their hands and chose to be gentle with it, you don't just respect them. You mark them as safe. You file them under, I can let my guard down around this one. And that designation is rare and precious and almost impossible to lose once it's earned. That's what you became to this person. Safe. In a world where almost no one is. And people protect, cherish, and stay loyal to the rare few who make them feel that way. You didn't just change their opinion. You became one of the safe ones. There aren't many. They'll remember. Next card. Okay, fifth card. And this one gets to the feeling, the new emotion that's stirring in them that wasn't there before your moment of grace. The card is the Six of Pentacles. And this one is interesting because it's all about the balance of giving and receiving, and it reveals something tender about where they are now. The Six of Pentacles, in this context, is showing me that this person now feels like they owe you something. And I don't mean that in a transactional, keeping score way. I mean it in the deeper, more human way they feel the weight of having received something generous from you that they did not earn and could not have demanded. You gave them grace they had no right to expect. And grace, when it's genuinely received, creates this beautiful gravitational pull in a person. It makes them want to give something back. It makes them want to be worthy of the kindness they were shown. There's a reason the oldest wisdom traditions all talk about how generosity changes the receiver. Because being treated better than you deserve has a way of pulling you up toward that better treatment, of making you want to rise to meet it. So, what this person is feeling now, underneath everything, is a quiet pull to reciprocate, to be better to you, to make it up to you somehow. They may not even fully understand the feeling, they just know that they think about you differently now, that they feel a kind of softness and indebtedness toward you that wasn't there before, that they want to show up for you in a way they hadn't bothered to before your grace woke something up in them. And here's the practical, real-life version of this principle, because it's everywhere once you see it. Have you ever had someone do something unexpectedly kind for you? Let you merge in traffic with a genuine friendly wave? Cover you when you were short at the register? Give you the benefit of the doubt when they didn't have to? And noticed how it made you want to pay it forward? How it softened you for the rest of the day? How you found yourself being a little kinder to the next person because someone had been kind to you? That's the Six of Pentacles in motion. Generosity is contagious, and it flows downhill and back toward its source. You set that in motion with this person. They're carrying your grace around now, and it's quietly reshaping how they want to treat you. You gave without demanding return, and that's precisely the thing that makes return want to come. And let me name something subtle but important here, because it's the part that separates real grace from manipulation. The reason this works, the reason their sense of indebtedness is healthy rather than resentful, is that you didn't give your grace in order to get something back. You gave it freely, with no strings, no scoreboard, no I'll be nice now so they owe me later. And people can feel the difference between generosity that comes with an invisible bill attached and generosity that's truly free. When kindness has strings, the receiver feels trapped by it, and trapped people get resentful, not grateful. But when kindness is genuinely free, when you clearly expected nothing, the receiver feels moved by it. And moved people want to give back of their own accord. So the very fact that you weren't keeping score is what makes them want to repay you. It's a beautiful paradox. The surest way to make someone want to give to you is to give to them while wanting nothing in return. You did that. And now the desire to reciprocate is rising in them naturally, freely, the same way you gave it, which means whatever comes back to you will be genuine, not grudging. That's the only kind worth having. Comment they owe me1, not in a bitter way, but in the soft way if you can feel that this person now carries a quiet sense of wanting to make something up to you. Because that feeling is real, and it's working in your favor. Next card. Okay, sixth card. And this is the practical payoff, how the shift in their opinion is going to translate into actual behavior. Because a changed opinion that never changes anything is just a nice thought. This one's going to move. The card is the Knight of Pentacles. And the Knight of Pentacles is the card of steady, reliable, follow through action, slow but sure, consistent, the kind of effort that actually shows up over time. And here's what that tells me about what's coming. This person is going to start showing it. Not in some dramatic, sweeping, grand gesture way that's not the Knight of Pentacles. This is going to be quieter and, honestly, more meaningful than a grand gesture. It's going to look like them being more consistent with you, more dependable, more present. The little behaviors that say I respect you, now remembering things you mention, following through on what they say, being more thoughtful, showing up when they said they would. The Knight of Pentacles doesn't make speeches. He just demonstrates steadily through action over time. And I want to point something out, because it matters. This is actually the best kind of changed behavior you could hope for. A lot of people, when their opinion of someone shifts, do the big flashy thing, the over-the-top apology, the dramatic gesture, the burst of attention that fizzles in a week. The Knight of Pentacles is the opposite of fizzle. It's the slow, reliable, building kind of change. the kind that lasts. So if you've started noticing this person being a little more solid with you lately, a little more consistent, a little more careful with how they treat you, that's not random. That's the grace you gave them converting into steady, durable respect, expressed through action. Let me give you the practical lens for this, because it's the most useful thing I'll say tonight. The way you tell whether someone's changed opinion of you is real is not by what they say, it's by the boring, consistent follow through. Anyone can tell you they respect you. The Knight of Pentacles asks, do they show it repeatedly in unglamorous ways when no one's watching and there's no drama to perform? Watch for that. Watch for the small consistencies. The text that comes when they said it would. The thing they remembered. The reliability that wasn't there before. That's the proof that your moment of grace didn't just earn a fleeting good feeling, it earned a lasting change in how this person treats you. And lasting change is the only kind worth having. Next card. Okay, seventh card. And this one turns the lens onto you. Because I don't want you walking away from this thinking the lesson is, be nice, and people will like you. That's not it at all. There's a deeper truth here about your own power. And this card names it. The card is the Queen of Wands. And the Queen of Wands is radiant, self-assured, magnetic, a woman who knows exactly who she is and doesn't need anyone's validation to feel secure in it. Here's what this card wants you to understand. The reason your grace was so powerful, the reason it changed this person's whole opinion, instead of just making you look like a pushover, is that it came from a place of fullness, not emptiness. You didn't choose kindness because you were too afraid to do anything else. You chose it because you were secure enough, full enough, powerful enough, not to need the cheap win. And that's the whole secret, loves. Grace only has this transformative power when it's clearly a choice made from strength. When it's a choice made from fear, people can smell it, and it reads as weakness. When it's a choice made from genuine self-possession, from a Queen of Wands, who simply doesn't need to prove anything, it reads as the most powerful thing in the room. So the lesson here is not always be nice. The lesson is, get so secure in yourself that kindness becomes a choice you make from power rather than a mask you wear from fear. Because those produce completely opposite results. The person who's nice because they're afraid gets walked on. The person who's nice because they're unshakable gets revered. Same behavior on the surface. Totally different energy underneath. And people respond to the energy, not the behavior. Here's the practical takeaway, and I want you to really sit with it. The next time someone hands you the opportunity to humble them, and life will keep handing you those opportunities, I want you to remember that the most powerful response is almost never the one that makes them small. Ask yourself in the moment, am I about to be kind because I'm strong, or am I about to react because I'm hurt? If it's the first, the grace will land like magic, the way it did this time. If it's the second, if you're tempted to lash out from a wounded place, that's a sign to pause. Because reactive cruelty and strategic grace look different and feel different to the person receiving them. Your power isn't in your ability to wound people. Anyone can wound. Your power is in your ability to choose not to from a position where you easily could. That's the rarest power there is. And you, Queen of Wands, already have it. And I want to give you one more practical frame, because it's the one that'll serve you for the rest of your life. There's an old idea that the truest test of a person's character is how they treat people who can do nothing for them, and how they treat people who have wronged them. Anyone can be gracious to someone they're trying to impress. Anyone can be kind to someone who's being kind back. The real measure, the thing that reveals who you actually are at your core, is how you treat someone when they're down and you're up. When you have all the power and they have none. When being cruel would cost you nothing, and being kind gains you nothing obvious. That's the moment your true character shows. And the beautiful thing is, that's also the exact moment other people are watching most closely, even when they pretend not to be. So every time you choose grace from a position of power, you're not just being nice, you're broadcasting, in the loudest possible way, exactly who you are. People file it away. They remember. The reputation you build in those moments, this is someone who is good, even when they don't have to be, is one of the most valuable things a person can possess. Because it makes people trust you, root for you, and want to be near you. You've been building that reputation one gracious choice at a time, probably without even realizing it. This recent moment was just the latest deposit in an account that's been quietly growing your whole life. Comment from strength, not fear. If this just reframed your kindness for you, if you're realizing your grace was never weakness, it was power wearing a gentle face. Let's pull our final card. Okay, last card. After everything, the trap you didn't take, the shock on their side, the moment their opinion flipped, the new respect, the pull to reciprocate, the steady change in behavior, and the truth about your own power, let's see where all of this leaves you. The card is the Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups, loves, the warmest card in the whole deck for matters of connection. This is emotional fulfillment, harmony, relationships that are genuinely good, not dramatic, not draining, but nourishing and whole. And the fact that this is where your reading lands tells me something beautiful. The grace you extended isn't just changing one person's opinion of you in isolation. It's building something. It's laying down a foundation for connections in your life that are healthier, warmer, and more mutually respectful than what you may have been used to. Because here's the deeper thing the Ten of Cups is pointing to. When you respond to people from that place of strong, secure grace, when you consistently choose the high road from a position of fullness, rather than fear, you don't just change how individual people see you. You change the entire quality of relationship that's available to you. You start attracting and cultivating the kind of connections where respect flows both ways, where people treat you the way the Queen of Wands deserves to be treated, where the warmth you put out comes back to you. The Ten of Cups is the harvest of a life lived with that kind of grounded grace. It's what your character builds, brick by brick, choice by choice, moment by moment. So here's where this leaves you, in a stronger position than if you'd taken the cheap shot. If you'd humbled that person, you'd have won a moment and lost the connection. Instead, you let the moment go and won something far more valuable, their genuine, lasting respect, and a relationship that now has room to become something good. That's the trade the Ten of Cups is celebrating. You traded a small, sour victory for a large, lasting one. And that, loves, is the kind of wisdom that builds a beautiful life. The line between grace and letting yourself be walked on. Before I bring this all together, I want to slow down and talk about something really important, because I can feel some of you needing it. There's a question hovering over a reading like this, and it's a fair one, Alina. How do I know when choosing grace is powerful and when it's just me letting someone off the hook who shouldn't be let off the hook? Because those can look similar from the outside, and the difference matters enormously. So let me draw the line as clearly as I can. The grace this reading is celebrating, the kind that changed this person's opinion of you, has three specific ingredients. And if you're ever unsure whether your kindness is powerful or self-abandoning, you can check it against these. First, it came from a position where you could have done otherwise. That's essential. Grace is only grace when retaliation was genuinely available to you and you chose not to use it. If you chose kindness because you were too scared to do anything else, that's not grace, that's just fear wearing grace's clothes. The whole power of what you did this time came from the fact that the gotcha was right there, fully loaded, completely justified, and you set it down anyway. You had the option. That's what made laying it down meaningful. Second, it didn't require you to pretend the wrong never happened. This is the big one. Real grace doesn't mean rewriting history or telling yourself it was fine when it wasn't. You can fully acknowledge to yourself, and even to them, that they messed up, that it hurt, that it wasn't okay, and still choose not to use it as a weapon. Grace is, I see clearly what you did, and I'm choosing not to make you pay for it. It is not, I'll pretend I didn't notice so I don't have to feel uncomfortable. The first is strength. The second is self-erasure. And I have a feeling, based on these cards, that you did the first. Third, it didn't come with a quiet agreement to accept the same treatment forever. This is where grace and doormat energy really split apart. Choosing not to humble someone in a moment does not mean signing up to be mistreated going forward. You can give someone grace for a specific slip and hold a firm boundary about what you'll accept from here on. Those aren't in conflict, in fact. The most powerful people hold both simultaneously. They're gentle about the past and clear about the future. So if some part of you has worried that your kindness this time might be read as permission to keep treating you carelessly, I want you to make sure it isn't, by staying just as clear about your standards as you were generous in that moment. Grace for the slip, boundaries for the pattern. That's the formula. That's the version that earns respect instead of inviting more carelessness. If your moment of grace had those three ingredients, and I believe it did, then what you did was genuinely powerful. And you have nothing to second guess. You weren't a pushover. You were a person operating from such a secure place that you could afford to be generous without losing an inch of your own ground. That's the whole art of it. So let me gather this whole thing into one piece for you, because I want you carrying the full picture. We opened with the Five of Wands, the trap you didn't take. The moment you stood in front of an open door marked humble them and walked right past it, choosing your peace over your point. The reversed Eight of Swords showed us their side, braced for the blow that never came, completely disarmed not by your power, but by your refusal to use it. Judgment revealed the exact instant their opinion flipped the awakening. The moment they realized your grace wasn't weakness, but strength too secure to need the win. The King of Cups showed us the new belief that locked in, that you're someone with deep emotional mastery, above the fray, impossible to rattle someone to respect and trust. The Six of Pentacles uncovered the feeling, now stirring in them the quiet, soft pull to reciprocate, to be worthy of the grace they didn't earn. The Knight of Pentacles told us how it'll show up not in grand gestures, but in steady, reliable, lasting changes in how they treat you. The Queen of Wands named the truth about your power, that grace only transforms when it comes from strength, not fear, and yours did. And the Ten of Cups closed it all in warmth, showing that this grace isn't just changing one opinion. It's building a whole foundation for richer, more respectful connection in your life. So here's what I want you to carry out of this reading. Loves. You live in a world that constantly tells you that power means winning, that strength means never backing down, that the way to handle people who wrong you is to make them pay. And you, in a quiet moment recently, proved all of that wrong. You showed that the highest power isn't the power to humble someone, it's the power to spare them when you easily could have humbled them. You showed that grace, given from a position of strength, is more devastating to a person's old assumptions about you than any clever cutting remark could ever be. And you changed someone's entire opinion of you, not by proving you were right, but by showing them who you are. Now, because I always want to keep you grounded, let me add the honest caveat. Choosing grace does not mean choosing to be a doormat, and I never want you to confuse the two. There's a difference between extending grace from a position of strength and tolerating mistreatment from a position of fear. The grace this reading is celebrating is the kind you give while also maintaining your boundaries. You didn't humble them, but you also didn't pretend nothing happened, didn't abandon your own standards, didn't sign up to be treated poorly going forward. Grace and boundaries aren't enemies. The most powerful people hold both at once. So keep being gracious, but keep being gracious the way you were this time, from your full height, with your standards intact, as a choice, and never as a surrender. That's the version that changes opinions. That's the version that builds the Ten of Cups. That's the reading, my loves. A quieter one than usual, maybe, but I think it might be one of the most important ones I've done. Because it's about a kind of strength the world almost never celebrates and almost always rewards. If this resonated, if you felt that grocery store woman's energy in your own recent choice, if any part of this made you see your own kindness as the power it actually is, please give this video a like on your way out. It genuinely helps these readings reach the people who need to be reminded that their grace was never weakness. And subscribe to Elena Tarot if you haven't yet, because thoughtful, grounded readings like this are close to my heart, and I've got so many more coming for you. Tell me in the comments which card spoke to you most. Was it the trap you didn't take? The moment their opinion flipped? The truth about your power? I read every single one, and what you choose tells me exactly where you are in your own story. And if you already know exactly who this is about the person whose opinion of you just changed, you don't even have to name them. Just drop one single heart. So I know your grace landed the way it was meant to. Thank you for being here with me tonight, and thank you really for being the kind of person who chooses the high road when the low road is right there and fully justified. The world needs more of that than it knows. And the people lucky enough to be on the receiving end of your grace are changed by it, whether they ever say so or not. Keep choosing it. I'll see you in the next one.